Hello and welcome to my old friend Mark Stretton, who is the co-founder and MD of Fleet Street Communications. Mark, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Hospitality Talks. It's a pleasure to have you. For anyone out there who doesn't know you and maybe hasn't worked with Fleet Street before, do you want to just give a brief introduction?
Sure. Well, hello, Katie. Thanks very much for having me. This is really strange for me because I'm normally the one that's asking the questions. So hopefully this will go okay. But yeah, for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm a former journalist. I used to edit MCA. Before that, I spent a bit of time on the Nationals, on the Sunday Times for a few years, and then set up Fleet Street Communications a few years ago with three other people. I'm MD, and we are a food and drink, leisure and hospitality, PR, comms, content creative agency, and we help clients drive their messages out to their key audiences and drive their relevancy, mainly through PR and comms, but occasionally with other things as well. So our clients would include suppliers to the hospitality market and grocery market like Diageo, Asahi, Wing Yip. And then we also work with some operators like EI Group, Arc Inspirations, Casual Dining Group, and a few others. And then we also work with UK Hospitality, and we're their comms agency for national newspapers and broadcast, and also for the trade. So promoting what UKH does to the great and the good out there in the wide world, and also communicating back to their members.
Okay, thank you very much. Very comprehensive introduction there. Mark, you've obviously seen how we do hospitality talks, and it's very formulaic in some ways, but actually I think you're going to come at it from a slightly different point of view. But I do have to ask initially, when the COVID-19 crisis hit, how does a PR firm working in hospitality have to react?
Gosh, well, that feels like a long time ago now, doesn't it? Initially with a bit of fear. I think we were quite fortunate actually in that there was an ongoing need for quite a few of our clients. Heard some real horror stories when it landed, because some people who were doing venue comms and PR and helping companies with launches and things like that need, that requirement for that work just went away straight away. With us, we had about a third of our clients pause pretty quickly, where they went to zero revenue and they just had to stop. And then we had quite a few that kept going. So in terms of how we reacted, it was really a matter of saying, okay, what's important? You know, what should our clients be doing? What should we be doing to support them? A lot of it was guiding. And then with UK Hospitality, myself and my colleague Mike Berry, we were pretty much seconded to UKH for sort of 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. And really working with Kate Nichols and Tony Sophocledes and the team there to drive out messages about what was going on meant for hospitality industry, and how, you know, government support was vital, and just getting as many operators, as many leaders and CEOs onto TV, onto radio, international newspapers. So it was a pretty intense time. That's how we were reacting.
Mm. And then, so obviously that's the initial situation that you find yourselves in. You then still have presumably some sort of crisis PR that you're dealing with for some clients as well. And so then how did that then develop? Because not everybody went totally silent. So were you still working on projects, and have you been for the last, well, what are we now, week 10?
Yeah, so we have. So with some clients, it was a matter of saying, okay, what good can we do? You know, how can we help, and how can communications help? So with EI Group, for example, they had a load of pubs doing great things in their communities, whether it was feeding the NHS, feeding vulnerable and homeless people, or doing innovative things like a drive-through carvery, or all sorts of stuff. So we were sort of pumping those stories out and trying to build fame for those pubs in their local markets. With some of the suppliers, they were doing good. I think the starting point was, how can you help? Not necessarily thinking about with a comms hat on or a PR hat on, but just how can you help? How can you be helpful? How can you matter? And how do you want to be remembered when people look back at what's going on right now? And what does that look like? Mm-hmm. And a lot of companies had surplus stock that was just going to sit there and go off. So getting that into the right places where it could be helpful, such as the NHS, such as charities and food banks, and doing all that work. And then if there was a comms opportunity that came out of it, great. But I think it was really important that that wasn't the driving force, and that's not the place most people were in anyway. It was just about being helpful and trying to do the right thing in what was a really difficult time, and still is for many people.
And of course, we're now looking at possibly having a date for opening, but obviously that totally depends on the circumstances for every single individual outlet, whether they're able to open under the rules that we may well have that govern us. What preparation have you been doing with clients for that? I mean, how can you prepare to communicate messages that you don't really know what the messages are going to be yet? There's a good question.
Yeah, so it's a really good question, just to try and sound like you know what you're talking about. I think a lot of people have said, the challenge is having really detailed plans that are also flexible,
right,
just in recognition of, so you're almost having lots of different scenarios that you're working through as to what it could look like. So at the moment we've got the 1 meter versus 2 meter debate that's going on, and there are guidelines expected from government in the next few days on how pubs should reopen. But I think a lot of it's about guiding our clients as much as we can as to what it may look like. And obviously, because we work with UKH, we've got a pretty good line in there through Kate and her team to any guidance and on what the discussions and the conversations are that are happening there. And then I think the other thing is just plan whatever it looks like from a messaging and comms perspective. It's just going to be about reassurance and trust and building confidence amongst the guests. And that thing around in the on-trade and hospitality, we're a licensed industry. We're used to being compliant and we're used to regs, and whatever the regs are and whatever the guidance is, we'll nail it and we'll make it work and we'll keep you safe. And remembering also at the same time that, and I think lots of other people made this point, that this is going to be welcome hopefully by a lot of people. It's going to be a relief to get back to the pub and enjoy a pint or a cold glass of wine or whatever it might be, and it should be a bit of fun, and there's lots of things that people are sort of clamoring for, and dialing into that in the communications. There's kind of a celebratory element, and there's also a confidence and trust element, and those are the two main things that I think we all need to push out as an industry and make sure we're talking to consumers about.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just got goosebumps when you mentioned the phrase "cold glass of wine and going to the pub" in the same sentence.
Is it time yet?
No, too early. I've told you, it's too early. I mean, obviously, so you and I have worked with Mark McCulloch and a selection of other people on something called the 100-day Playbook, which has been, I see has been downloaded by nearly 700 operators now, I think.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Which is phenomenal. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more, tell the people watching a little bit more about what that was and what it aims to do.
Yeah, well remembered. We're one of 10 or 11 agencies, along with KAM, who have participated in the 100-day Playbook. It's for pubs, restaurants, cafes, bars, either individual outlets or groups, anyone that has to plan their kind of return and relaunch. It was driven by Mark McCulloch, who I'm sure many people will know, sort of great marketing guy, ex-Pret, ex-Yo, ex-Last Minute, really, really great guy. And he basically brought us all together, I think, to just share what we know. And I think Mark is a great advocate of sending love out there into the universe and seeing what comes back. And I think we've all taken that approach where we've all contributed to that playbook, and it's a step-by-step guide on marketing, research, PR and comms, digital, and it's been great working with the likes of you and Mark and the guys at Mimo and Two Forks and many others, Feed It Back, Wireless Social. And I think it plays into something that's really important that I'm sure we've all felt in the last few weeks about the requirement for greater collaboration, the requirement to get out there and support our industry and support our clients and yeah, just try and do some good. And as part of that playbook, anyone that downs it, we're encouraging them to donate to Hospitality Action, which has been doing some great work, especially through the crisis, helping vulnerable people from our industry. And I think we've raised over £2,000 from downloads, which is great, and we're hoping to raise a lot more. So yeah, and it's about, I think it's about 200 pages long, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
it's a fairly
quite a
hefty tome.
Yeah, I'm about 3/4 of the way through myself, if I'm absolutely honest, but learnt so much already. But
yeah, same here. It's great to see what other people have been doing.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
And I think just to sort of bottom out that point, Katy, just trying to do stuff to help has been really important. So I know you've been doing stuff with Hospo Live, as have I, and trying to help, you know, UKH or Project Pint, Charlie McVeigh's project that he's trying to get off the ground about getting people back into pubs. I think we've all sort of felt the need to get out there and just be helpful and support.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the hospitality industry is an industry that is full of a lot of friends, you know, and I think that if you see somebody else struggling, you want to help out. I'm actually getting a bit tearful now, so we're going to have to move on.
But it is a networked industry, isn't it? It's a relationship industry, and it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, you know, working on the 100-day playbook, everyone here at KAM just thought it's something we can do to help. And you know, this industry is not just what we rely on for our bread and butter, because actually it's also where we go to socialize. It's where we go to eat and to drink and to see our friends and family. So, you know, we need it to survive. We need it to come out of this, you know, shocking situation in the best way that it possibly can. So I think you're absolutely right. I think everybody, well, 99% of everybody in our industry has been doing exactly that. So Mark, I'm just going to finish off with asking you what's next for the industry, and I'd also like your opinion on how you think that communication, you know, how does comms change going forward in hospitality, or does it not? Does it stay the same? I don't know.
Oh God, that's a good question. I mean, I think at a base level it doesn't change, and what I mean by that is it's still about, ultimately it's still about sort of building relevancy for clients or whoever we're representing, you know, why they matter and why people should care. And you know, in the immediate future, for a lot of our clients, that is about reassurance, trust, emotional connection. But in terms of how it might change, I mean, clearly everything's going a bit more digital. And from doing this more of this kind of stuff, to fully fledged online conferences where there's different rooms and different seminars going on at the same time, all delivered on a technology platform.
I'm anxious just thinking about being part of something like that.
And I guess for some of our clients, that they're moving along the digital curve from an e-com perspective. So that's, you know, if you're Diageo, should we have more of our brands on Instagram where people can buy them, or buy, you know, cocktail kits? Or we're just doing something with Treasury Wine Estates for Wolf Blass Wine, where they're doing sampling at home via delivery.
Oh, great.
Which is quite interesting. And not so long ago, that sampling activity would probably be outside a supermarket or in a bar, and hopefully that will happen in due course. But for the moment, it's via delivery. Yeah. So that kind of marketing communications activity is we're having to rethink it as our clients, and no doubt there'll be lots more innovation. I think companies directly publishing to their audience, that's been going on for some time, but building those databases, building those permissions to be able to communicate directly with their audience, that will continue, and probably build some more. But yeah, I think at its heart, it's always going to be about, you know, what's the message? Why should people care? How are you relevant? You know, what are you saying? Why does it matter? And then I think in terms of messaging, purpose is clearly just going to go up and up and up. Kindness is really important. I think more than ever, that it's about that human to human communication. You know, there's no place for big corporate messages. It's about, you know, how you're helping your community and how you're helping your audience.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yes, I totally agree. I think that there's a lot to be said for that human to human connection, which we haven't been able to have face to face, but that we are now learning how to develop technologically and online. And I think that before, it felt like doing anything online was a bit of a boundary and a bit of a barrier between you and the person that you were dealing with. And now actually it almost feels a bit more personal, like you're almost inviting them into your home. You know, and
Yeah, for sure.
as you can see from both, but from everyone that you speak to, it's what's one of my favorite bits, is seeing what people's houses look like.
This is my son's bedroom, by the way, because my wife's in the office.
Yeah.
The dartboard is not mine, and I'm a Portsmouth fan, so that's definitely not mine.
Listen, Mark, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to me, because I know
thank you.
At the moment, it's been a pleasure working with you on a few bits and pieces over the last couple of months, and I look forward to continuing that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Katie. All right. Thank you.